And he said, I'm sending you money and you come back to Wells. So Freddie took me to the bus depot in Minneapolis, put me on the bus depot to come to Wells, and Charles met me at the bus depot. Then I stayed at Ides, because by that time I was mad at Minnie, see? And I stayed, and that's when Charles
It sounds like Minnie treated you kind of like a slave.
Yeah, really she wasn't fair. But you see...
You worked all 7 days a week until midnight.
Yeah, and I took care of him. So Gail, I was second mother to him. But then, when I quit Minnie's, well, then she got some Tilly Shinky, some older woman to come in and stay with the kids. And then I suppose there was no tiling or anything like that she had to do. But I was out of there, but I had that $30. But the thing was, here we three of us were at Aunt Jenny's. They couldn't go home up north, because Dad had just gotten out of the university hospital. He had his trouble with prostate trouble, I guess. So we got them on the train, Freddie, to go to Little Fork, because then, see, Frank was there anyway. And then
So there was no credit in those days.
I had to go back to Aunt Jenny's, and I tell you, I didn't sleep at night. I couldn't sleep any night because I didn't know what I was going to do.
How old were you then?
Well, I was out of high school, a couple years older. I must have been about 18, 19 then.
So how long did you and Charles date?
A couple years. Okay. Because all the while I worked for Minnie, we were dating. And then when I went to stay with Heidi, well, then, of course, we were dating. Then's when we decided to get married.
So did he propose to you?
I don't know. I guess we just always thought we were going to get married.
Well, that's good.
And he lived with his father, you know, back at the school. So they had a house. So evidently...
But you said Grandpa Brown, my Grandpa Brown, didn't approve of it.
Well, he didn't approve of any of my family. But he had to, because I was his... And he then, after we got married, he and I got along pretty good. Except, well, we had one argument because Gladys and Roger moved in from the farm in our house with Ed, while Charles and I were on vacation up to Little Fork. We got back, and here they were moved in because they had left the farm. Well, then, Charles and his dad got into it. And so Charles got busy, and he rented that house at the end, the Instrument House. That's where you were born. And that was a couple of years. And see, then he and his dad still didn't get along, and I was out of it because I wasn't around very much. But when you were born, Ed came to the hospital in Elmer Lee. See, those days I stayed in the hospital about 8, 9 days. And he had a grandson, and he wanted to see you. And you patched everything up. And from that day on, Ed and I got along perfect. He was fighting with his daughter and with Donald, or with his son. Ed and I were the best of friends. He'd come over here to see the kids. And he'd stop out here with that old, was it Dodge?
Yeah.
And the kids would run out, settle them down, run out to meet Grandpa. And he came putting her every day, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I treated him better than his daughter-in-law or any of his own kids.
So
he took me fishing.
Oh yeah.
He had an old jalopy.
Okay. Okay, so when Donald and Sybil were born, were you working then?
No. Well, I worked before I got pregnant, canneling eggs at Musser's.
What's canneling?
Well, Musser's had a, poultry outfit, where they bought eggs and sold them. But they had to test them. They were like little lamps, and there was about 15, 20 people, no, maybe about 10, 15, that you go up and you stood at a counter, and here was these lamps. And you took these eggs from where the farmers brought them in. You held them up to the camp, to this lamp-like thing. It was a lamp that had a globe on it, an eye, so you could hold the egg up there, and you could see if it was a good egg or not. There was a 1, 2, or 3. Sometimes you got some eggs that had half a chicken in it. You know,
Mm.
the farmers they didn't care. They just brought what they had. So we had to sort out those eggs. And I worked there after we lived, before you were born, before I got pregnant, 25 cents an hour. And then on Saturday night, quite often, I had gotten a connection with Penny Store here when I stayed at Ides, and I could work for 25 cents an hour on a Saturday night from like maybe 8 or 9 till 11 o'clock to clean up, and we closed the doors. The doors closed at 10. People had to get out. Then we had to kind of put things away, and I got 25 cents an hour there. So then Charles got connected with Keister, with the plumbing shop. I can't remember those two guys. And he had enough experience, so the McDonald guy talked Charles into going on his own. So they let
I can't
him
get the sand out.
buy like $500 worth of material
banging on
to get
this.
started. And we lived in that
Bang it.
Enstrud house at that time when, and then also Charles worked at Keister.
On the
And
sidewalk.
I remember when he worked at Keister, they raised his wages to 50 cents an hour. We thought we were rich. 50 cents an hour. And I was earning 25 cents an hour handling eggs. Well, then I got pregnant. And
My
I-
dad said he oiled machinery for Musters for 15 cents.
Yeah,
But he got fired.
yeah, there was something, I don't know.
He said he said to one of the employees, "This is a chicken shit place to work for." And that got back to the head Muster guy, and they fired him. They waited for him to come to work 6 in the morning on a
Yeah.
20 below, and then they fired him after he got to work.
Charles might have worked part-time,
I don't think he did work there very long.
Then I worked at the canning factory once too, when I was living at Ides, before we were married. And Charles used to come out there because, you know, I'd work on the night shift. And that was a great big crate come with all these cans of corn, and we'd have to pack them into boxes. Well, he'd come out quite often, like 10, 11 o'clock, because sometimes we got through early, and he'd help me pack. You got so much a box.
I'm
So
gonna go ride my bike.
Okay.
that kind of helped, because I could earn a few, maybe 50 cents or 75 cents more a night.
Mm-hmm.
And then he'd take me home. Otherwise, I'd have to get a roll at ride with somebody else. So it was tough going, and then I'd see, I've forgotten all that. Now it comes back. I wish I did. I don't know. How did we survive? But I remember one time we were so poor when I came home from school. That's where my dad got on WPA, got groceries from the government, you know. They could get flour and sugar. And my mother was in bed. That's when we lived in town. We bought for $8 a month, we bought that house in Little Fork after we had to get off of the farm, because we only rented there for a year. So we got that. I don't know what they had for down payment. Well, it probably was nothing. It was an old house. It wasn't very good, but we did a lot of cleaning and fixing. And
Your mother didn't have anything for food, and you said she went to bed.
that's right. I came home from school and there was nothing,
Nothing-
because they had to sell the eggs to get sugar and flour. So we couldn't have any eggs from those doggone chickens. Anyway, we'd have a few once in a while for pancakes we'd save out. And so Dad went to Slipper Grove. He was the guy that doled out grapefruit and sugar, flour. And that was the hardest day of his life and my mother's. They were poor, they were down and out, they didn't have anything. We didn't have anything to eat. And he got commodities. They called it commodities. So then we were okay for a while. And that's when I think they put him on this WPA thing. He got on that. So he was earning, I don't know what, an hour to be boy for a water boy. And then she got sick.